Hey there, I've seen a lot of videos on these new 2021 KTM Super Adventure 1290 R online, and I decided instead of putting on a video that shows how it came stock, I'd show how it has been modified so that it meets all the needs that I need from it when I go out and do off-road backcountry stuff and a little bit of camping. I still like to ride it around on the street and use it for utility because it's a great street bike. So I thought I would just kind of go over some of the modifications that I've made to the bike to show you guys just one way that it could be done. So I'll kind of start from the top, and we started out with the mirrors. Everybody wants to replace the mirrors because the stock mirrors are kind of crappy. They don't do very well, and they're boxy and they don't fold down if you want to get them out of the way for off-road riding. So I've got these ram mount mirrors, and a lot of people use them. I use the medium length. They're good to about probably 90 miles an hour. After about 90 miles an hour, it seems like they will have a tendency to fold back. I've used the medium length center sections. I know that they have a short length, and then they have a very long length also. A lot of people like the shorter mirrors where the ball is right here, so I've seen that as well. Those might be good to a higher speed, but I don't really go over 100 very often, every now and then just for a blast. But those mirrors are great. Of course, if you're riding off-road, or if you want to have your phone and a GPS mount, I've got the phone and the GPS mount, and I use my phone exclusively for navigating out in the off-road sections, and that works great. All I did was, this bike comes with a 12-volt socket, and I just put in a USB adapter, and that works very well for what I need. If I could, I would probably replace that 12-volt socket with a USB adapter, so I don't even have a 12-volt socket, because that's just one more thing that could potentially come unplugged and go wrong. But that system works great for now. I've also put on the ASV shorty levers, because with the hand guards, the stock levers hit, or you have to have them coming out a little higher or a little lower, which I don't like. So nobody seems to make ASV levers, or really any aftermarket lever, for this bike yet. So what I did is I found one that was almost perfect for the clutch side, and if I pull the lever in, I'll show you, hopefully the camera sees this. I had to grind off with the Dremel tool just a little bit of this section right here, and that made it fit correctly. I had to do that on the top and then on the bottom as well, but that was all I had to do, and then it worked perfectly. So that's an adjustable lever. And then of course the front brake lever required nothing. They have one for that. These were relatively expensive, but I have a funny feeling that the Japanese market or Chinese market is going to come out with some of these pretty quick to fit the need that everybody wants. So I use the Pro Bend lever guards, I don't know, handlebar guards I guess you call them, and they work really good on this bike. They clear in here all the cables that have to come down, and hydraulic stuff like that. And then I've tapped the inside of the bar so that you screw in a big old screw instead of having that little expanding lag, and that's a little bit better, you know. It just gives you a more secure bolt on the end. So I've got those on there. Let's see, I've got an older KTM tank bag. I just love having a tank bag on here, and this is one that I had on my 1090, and it gives me plenty of room. It doesn't get in the way. Every now and then when I'm standing up and I want to lean forward, I'll push on it like that, and I don't like that, but I really can't make it go any further forward, or when I turn my handlebars, things start to hit, and I don't want to have that. So that's been pretty good for me. I didn't have to spring the suspension on this bike. The suspension was actually really good right out of the box. Usually I respring it for my weight, because I'm a 225-pound guy, plus, you know, all the gear that I throw on it. But this one seems to be great. I've just adjusted the rebound and compression to suit my needs, and that's been fabulous. I didn't get a headlight shroud cover because it's just one more thing to have to work around and clean, and I don't really like that. I do not follow guys closely when I'm riding, so I don't have to worry about people throwing rocks in my face very much. Let's see, I put on a high fender kit. That was a son of a bitch, because like I said, in America, the aftermarket guys have not had access to this bike until recently, 2021, 22. So this was tough to find. Basically, the bracket that mounts up here in the top is different on the previous model 1290s and the 1090. It used to be easy, and it cost about $109 to get a high fender kit. This high fender kit, I had to order this bracket up here from a gentleman in Berlin, Germany. And then of course, this is I think a 690 front fender. And they have a kit that puts on the 790, 890 fork guards, and I was able to find a set through my dealer that didn't have the 790, 890 logo printed right into it. So that worked good, and black is fine with me. So that was a good thing to put on there for my style. You can see I've also put on the upper crash bars. I used the Touratech model because that's the only one I could find that fit the front fender kit, because you can see if I look up underneath here, a lot of the front fender kits don't take the line that goes back behind the front fender. You have to be able to clear that. A lot of them go across up here, I guess up in front, and so that makes it so you can't use a front fender kit, high fender kit. So I got that one, and it's all stainless steel. It seems to work really well. It's you know, bolting on a upper crash bar is kind of a son of a gun. You have to fiddle around with it and play with it and make it fit so that it's got the same clearance on both sides and it's not hitting the radiator or anything. This one I can now see that I put it on a little bit crooked. I just did some work on my bike yesterday and I'll have to readjust that just a little bit. But that's great. It gives you a spot here where if you want to strap on some tools in between there, I found some little square tool bags that I can strap on with just a single strap going around the tubes. And on one side I have my tire repair kit with all the tools that I would need to pull a wheel if I needed to, or hopefully, since I have tubeless tires and wheels on this, I don't have to actually do anything except for pop in a plug and then reinflate it. So on the other side I have a little Amazon inflator kit that has a air pump that's powered by a little, it's actually a pretty good sized lithium ion battery, and so it not only uses that power to inflate your tires, but it also uses that power if you want to use it as a battery bank for like your GoPro to recharge it, or your phone or anything like that. It's got a lot of power, so you can use it to repower things if you're low out on the trail. You might notice I have just installed a titanium exhaust. You can see it's already bluing and turning different colors, and it's got some pretty neat welds on it and stuff, but I put that exhaust on. That is a decat, so it does not have the catalytic converter back here. Normally the catalytic converter would be right here, and then up inside the muffler there's another big chunk of catalytic converter. This one has none. I haven't noticed a particular performance increase from it, but it does sound just a little bit raspier. Don't know if I like that, but it's nice and loud. I put on the Akrapovic exhaust, the titanium carbon kit, so it's got the carbon rear and the carbon protector. I have pulled the decibel killers out of there, and so it's a full, you know, that's almost 2 inches or so, and it's loud. I like it, but it's not quiet. Just yesterday, one of my big projects, when I was putting on that exhaust, I went ahead and got the Black Dog skid plate. And so the Black Dog skid plate replaces the stock skid plate, which is basically about as heavy duty as a pie pan. And unfortunately, on one of my last rides, I went out with some friends and I tossed up a rock from my front wheel, and it got sideways in the trail and it bashed the bottom of my skid plate in. And then right here behind it, you can see the exhaust pipe. It dented my exhaust pipe. In fact, I've got that exhaust pipe right here. So you can see the way that this works. There's a nice dent. That's basically the bottom side of the exhaust. And so I tried to straighten that. I tried to heat it up and freeze it and do all the things that everybody thinks is going to work for that, and I could not get that dent out. So I decided to buck up and swallow the pill and just order a new exhaust. I was able to find one from Europe that was about half the price of what I've seen here in the United States, and I'm happy that I did it because I think I got it for $6.35 including shipping, which amazed me because I believe everybody over here sells them for about $1,200. Let's see what else we've got. The tubeless Moto Z tires. These tires have already got 3,000 miles on them, and you can see there's no tread mark showing here anymore. We've still got the wear marks here, but so this tire is you know, it's still in doable, usable shape for sure, but it's starting to show its wear. But that's 3,000 miles on a 1,300cc dirt bike. I'm not complaining. I'd say it's pretty good. Let's see, these are tubeless rims right from the get-go, and they're not the same as the previous year's 1290, 1190s, and 1090s on the tubeless section. Each one of these spokes has got a little individual O-ring seal on it, and you can see right here there's like a little joint where you could still loosen and adjust the spokes, tighten them without turning the base. So that's kind of neat. It doesn't leak. I haven't had any seepage, and they're relatively strong rims. I mean, comparatively speaking, it's a different form rim than the previous years, and it seems to be relatively resistant to denting and bending, at least so far in my case. Let's see, I've got on a KTM Super Sprox, which is the steel on the outside and aluminum on the inside, so it's relatively light. I've got a 45 tooth, so I geared it down a little bit. This bike is capable of doing 150 miles an hour stock gearing, and I do not need to do that very often. So I choose to downgrade it or down gear it a little bit so that it works better in the off-road conditions and I can actually use first and second gear. Let's see, the one thing that this Black Dog kit, the Black Dog Splash Guard Rock Guard kit came with, is a kickstand relocation setup, which I thought was fantastic. The kickstand on these big, I guess they call them an LC8 motor, is normally mounted on a bracket that bolts right up to the engine here. And obviously having a kickstand mounted to the engine, if you were to take a heavy shock on your kickstand, whether a rock came up and nailed it, or whether you were maybe using the kickstand to do a 180 turn on a trail and you pull the weight of the bike over, or something like that, or even if you have the kickstand down and you get on the bike using the left foot peg, that puts a lot of stress and strain on the kickstand, and that fed through to the side of the motor. So you don't want to ever crack a motor case, because if you do, that's basically $8,000 to replace. So the kickstand relocation kit mounts it behind the foot peg. There's the point that the skid plate mounts on that side, and then the whole kickstand bracket is replaced with one that they have in their kit. You take all these bolts and transfer them to this different plate, and it bolts up there, and the kickstand works great. The center stand is still utilized with both the titanium exhaust that I got, I guess that's an Aero titanium racing exhaust, and the skid plate also allowed me to keep the center stand. So that's got a lot of, you can see the guarding underneath there. It guards the pipe on both sides, wraps up behind it where it can, and the center stand still works. So I like that, to keep all that. You know, for maintenance, I could still access the oil drain there and the filter here. The oil drain in the front is going to be a SOB. That's all there is to it. So they say you have to pull the left side of the engine guard off to remove this plate so you can drop it down to get at the oil change stuff. But so far I think I'm pretty happy with it. It is super thick. I don't know if you can see how thick this is, but that's a good 1/4 inch thick plate. I guess all the weight that I saved on that titanium exhaust was transmutated right into this heavy-duty skid plate, so probably didn't lose any weight there. I've also put on these little frame guards because my boot rides against the frame there when I've got my feet on the pegs and I'm standing, and it started to rub, so I put those guards on, not because I like the way they look, but just because it protects the frame from getting damaged. I guess I should mention up here, I also have a adventure bend on my handlebars. I guess it raises the handlebars up about 2 inches, I'd say. So this is the Pro Taper Evo, and the stock bend is a little lower down here. And since I'm a relatively large guy on this bike, I wanted a little more room on the handlebars, and then also these foot peg brackets can flip up or down and give you about, I'm going to say it's probably only 3/8 of an inch of difference, but it makes these foot pegs a little lower. And now that I've got this big bracket behind there, it makes them about a 1/4 inch wider. So my foot pegs are a 1/4 inch wider with that Black Dog skid plate. But I rode it around yesterday and I didn't notice any problem, no difference, and I like it. It also came with this exhaust came with this nice little carbon fiber heel cover so that you replace the stainless steel one on the stock pipe, and that looks good. So let's see, I think that's about it. I guess I've got one more thing. I do use this bike for trail riding and riding with my wife on the back, and so I've got the whole tail pack from KTM that makes it so you can put on a KTM rear trunk. I believe you can put on some other ones, but this top bracket is a proprietary KTM tail pack, which I'll put on in just a second. So you have to mount this little plate to the stock plate, and then this plate mounts to that. And it does seem to move just a little bit, even when everything's tight. People have told me that it's supposed to do that a little bit, but I guess these washers and screws have a nylon base to them or something, so it lets it move a little bit. Not really sure why, but it seems good. I also placed a KTM Power Parts standard comfort seat, same height, but the thing I like about it is this seat used to be angled towards the tank. It was a bit of an angle right there, and so I would always find myself sliding forward towards the tank when I was on a long ride, and I didn't like that. It didn't feel comfortable. So this new comfort seat, which is the one piece, the pillion pad is about a 1/2 inch longer and a 1/2 inch wider. It's got a better foam in it. It's a little softer. The same with the seat, and then it's got a nice cover on it. It's got the orange stitching and the little logo right there, which I guess for your $215 it makes you feel like you got something. But I've ridden the heck out of this thing since I got that seat, and it is more comfortable, so I'm real happy with that. So I will stick on the tail pack and show you what it looks like when I'm going out with my wife on the back, who likes the backrest, because there's a backrest built into the trunk right here. And she likes the support of that. Plus I can carry a bunch of shit that the girl wants me to carry. Or if I'm going camping, I can put a tent and all my camping gear in there, so I'll put that on right now. Okay, here's how this trunk box works. It's a stock KTM trunk box. I've got the orange cover, and it's not super heavy duty, but it works for me. Slide it in the front, hold on the back, and then you can lock it in place with the key so nobody can take it. Now it's locked on the bike. You pull the lever and it opens up. Stow whatever you want in there, and that's what it looks like on the bike. You can see the backrest now, and that's good for the wife when she's on the back and wants to lean back. I've dropped it a couple times with this on, and you would think if it hit the wrong way it would probably explode because it's just plastic. But it hit pretty good and it didn't explode, and it survived. Haven't crashed on this side with it yet, but it doesn't move around too much. It does have a little sound to it, but works really good for me. Doesn't make the bike look bad. Some people might like that look, some people might hate it, but it works for me. And then I have a set of, I guess, soft panniers that I throw over the back that don't require a rack. Wolfman. And I love the way they fit on there. I've got a big tent bag that I'll throw on, so I'll throw that on now so you can see what that looks like as well. Okay, so here's the bike set up for traveling. I've got the Wolfman side saddlebags. They're the old version that's fabric, and I really like them. They're currently empty. I think all there is in there is just a little air pressure, but they fill all the way up to about here, and they're waterproof, and they have a roll down top here, so they're very durable. They strap on nicely. I just strap this underneath the foot peg mount here, and it makes it nice and tight. They've got waterproof bags inside them that work really good. And then I've got a big rig gear backpack. So this is a combination backpack. I guess you could call it a tail bag or whatever you want to call it, but it's good sized. I can fit my tent, my camp chair, my sleeping bag, my camp pad, sleeping bag pad, and my pillow. And then all the little ancillaries that I might need fit in there, like a little air pump for my pillow and my sleeping bag pad, like the little coffee pot and the air jet heater, or the whatever they call the little stove that everybody uses, a little camp stove. So when I get off, I can just grab that right off the bike, and then I've got all the stuff I need to have in my camp to do the camping that night. I can use the trunk for clothes and things that's easy to get at, and I can use these Wolfman bags since they're the hardest to get into. I usually use those for my safety first aid kit, Any miscellaneous tools, stuff that might be heavy, can be low on the center of gravity level. Anything that's up here that's heavy, you know, affects your center of gravity, so you want to be careful of that. And then, of course, stuff that you put in the trunk is the highest center of gravity, so you want to keep that relatively light. And then the bike is set up to do some pretty good dual sport camping. I did just realize one thing I do want to mention is this is the new front Moto Z tire. It's the 80/80/21, and it's the Adventure tire, but this is called the Adventure DV, and the DV is a dual venture. And the idea with this front tire is that these big adventure bikes have a tendency to wear the front tire out, and the front edge of these knobs will have a tendency to wear down first, so it wears them at a bit of an angle. Well, this is a dual directional tire. It could be mounted either way. So what they say is that you can pull it off about halfway through its life when you start seeing those knobs starting to get a wear to them, and you can flop it and put it back on and reinflate it, and then it will wear the other direction. And this is truly a dual directional tire, so I like it. This has got 3,000 miles on it, and you can see it's still in pretty darn good shape. Same with the rear. It's starting to wear, but it'll probably go to 4,000 miles for one set of tires, and that's not too bad. I guess I should mention, even though it's kind of hidden from view, underneath this tank bag and underneath this there's a little tiny area in there where you can store stuff, but it's not big enough for a phone. I don't really know why they made it that way. It might fit an old iPhone or something, but it doesn't fit much more than that. I can just throw my tank bag out of the way and open it. It's just a little container. I keep a battery in there, a spare battery for my remote control key fob in case that was to ever go bad on me. That way you could replace it and not get stuck somewhere. But underneath that little toolbox down in there is the access to the air cleaner, and that's one of the major reasons why I bought this bike, is because pulling off the tank on the 1090 in order to access the air cleaner was pretty harrowing, because these tanks hold, you know, 6 gallons and they're heavy, and when you pull the tanks off, they're big. I mean, that's a big piece of plastic. Although it does a great job of getting the fuel down here in the low center of gravity, which I absolutely love, pulling them off to replace the air cleaner sucked. So this one, you can access the air cleaner here, and I've put a K&N replacement, you know, a fabric oilable, cleanable air cleaner in there, so you only have to pull it out, clean it, put it back in. It's not very hard. It takes about 20 minutes instead of 2 hours. So that's about it. That's the bike. I have a lot of fun with it, and I use it on a lot of off-road adventures, and these things are amazing. Hopefully you'll be able to grab a tip or two out of here if you haven't already done this stuff, and set your bike up in the way you like. So thanks much for watching, and good luck with whatever you're out there riding.